Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Joel Chasnoff.
Thank you. Boker Tov, everyone. Hey. Good morning and welcome to Zionism 3.0 2019. Yeah, you can applaud. There are 1,000 people in this room. My name is Joel Chasnoff. I'm a stand-up comedian. I'm a former Israeli soldier. I currently live in Israel. And before we go further, I want to just thank the amazing volunteers and staff who made this incredible event happen. Thank you. And all of them led by the man whose vision this was in the first place, the CEO of the Ashman family, JCC, Mr. Zach Bodner. So give it up for Zach as well. So, I was thinking, as the first speaker of the day, what could I possibly say to address this topic of Zionism and our relationship with Israel, which is both beautiful but also complicated. And as it happened, I was in Chicago last week, back home, and I was cleaning out my old bedroom, and I came across what I think perfectly exemplifies my original concept of Zionism in relationship with Israel. It's actually a board game. And it's so absurd that I brought it because no one would believe me if I just told you about it. Can we get a camera shot of this? Is it possible? This is a board game that I had when I was a kid growing up. It's called Aliyah. This is a real game. And the point of the game is to be the first player to move to Israel. Yeah, real game. And it's a very complicated board. Do you want to see the board? There you go. That is the board of the board game Aliyah right there. As you can see, you start in the United States, and then you fly to Australia, South America, England, Spain, and then Israel, which is what happens when you book your ticket on the LL website. But it's not easy to make Aliyah in this game because you roll dice and there are obstacles along the way preventing you. So it's kind of like Candyland combined with a pogrom. That's the base way to express this game. But it really exemplifies my original concept of Zionism because it was so simple. It was two colors, blue and white. It came in the box. There was no nuance, nothing complicated. And that was what Israel was to me when I was a child. But of course, as we get older and more mature, our relationship with Israel matures as well. And for me, the next step was the teen tour. I don't know how many people here took a teen tour, but it's a it's a dangerous experience because it's poisonous. You fall in love with everything Israel when you're 17 years old and you go for the first time. It's, of course, Masada and the Western Wall, but man, it's also Israelis, because you're 17 and the hormones are raging. And what's the first thing you notice when you get off the plane? How beautiful these Israelis are. You develop a crush on every Israeli you meet. The women are all tan and fit, and the Israeli men are all these hunks with muscles and crew cuts. And it's so odd, because they've got the same roots as we do, right? Eastern Europe, Poland, Germany, except they look like supermodels. And we look like Jews. How did that happen? That's not fair. And most of all, it's the Israeli soldiers. Because they're 18 years old. They're 1 year older than I am. I'm 17, they're 18, and yet they're so different. They have Uzi machine guns and berets and forearms like bricks. And then there's me, slathered in sunscreen, wearing a fanny pack, stuffed with lactose pills. Who would you rather be? But it's more than that. It's also this sense that I think many of us feel that even though we might have grown up in America, when we go to Israel, we feel more complete as a person. I felt like I was at home at 17, like I could finally be myself without explaining who I was. And I still do this. If you grow up Jewish in America, you're always explaining Judaism. It still happens to me when I come back to the States. I flew here from New York 2 days ago, and I was on the plane keeping kosher. I've always kept kosher. I have never not kept kosher. It makes perfect sense to me. But have you ever tried to explain keeping kosher to some? Right. That never goes well, right? Have a new cleaning lady, you got to lay down the rules. This sponge cannot touch this sponge. If it does, you're going to have to boil the entire house. You don't want to have to explain keeping kosher, but the other day I was on a plane from New York to here, 5 in the morning, the flight attendant was selling a breakfast bagel. Now, I'm a Jew at 5 in the morning, what could be better than a bagel? But I did what I always do. I said, can I please read the ingredients? And the flight attendant said, well, there's only 2 ingredients, salami and cheese. I said, well, I'm not allowed to eat that, I'll pass. So the woman next to me said, let me guess, you're vegetarian. Now, the correct answer to this question is yes. We all learn in Gan Yeladim nursery school, never explain that you keep kosher. Instead, just say you're vegetarian. No conversation. But it was early, I wasn't thinking. Accidentally, I said, well, actually, no, I'm kosher. Big mistake. Because you know what the next thing out of her mouth was? I've always wondered, what's kosher? And I'm like, damn. Basically, you don't eat milk with meat. She said, why not? I said, I don't know. You just don't. She said, is there a law? I said, yes, but it's really complicated. She said, is it the Old Testament or the New Testament? I said, okay, fine. You want to know why? It's because you don't want to boil a calf in its mother's milk. She said, what the hell do you do to your veal? That is disgusting. That's like a cult. I said, no, it's actually the idea that we recognize that 2 foods come from the same life form, so to honor the life, we separate the beef from the milk, the calf from the mother's milk. She said, oh, that's beautiful. But you do eat chicken with milk. And I said, well, no, we don't do that either. She said, why not? I said, well, because you might think the chicken is beef. She said, what? I said, yeah, well, the rabbis many years ago were worried that you could be eating what you think is chicken, but it turns out it's actually beef, and it could be the calf and the mother's milk. So to be on the safe side, if it was ever living, you don't eat it with milk. She said, oh, I get it. So that means you don't eat fish with milk. And I'm like, nah, we eat fish with milk. She said, well, what if you think the fish is beef? And I'm like, who thinks fish is beef? You ever seen a cow? You ever seen locks? They look nothing like each other. I love that in Israel that I don't have to explain who I am. These things are inherent to being there. Tefillin, I'm a conservative Jew, so I put on tefillin every morning that I feel like it. That's the halacha in conservative Judaism. And if you don't know what tefillin are, it's the leather straps we pull on our arms and head, because Jews know the best way to start the morning is to cut off your circulation for 45 minutes. You know, who needs yoga when you can have an aneurysm? Self-induced. And in Israel, you know, everyone knows what tefillin is. You can walk down the street wearing tefillin, it won't bat an eye. But in America, when I fly, you know, in America, if you're male and flying alone, you're suspicious, so the TSA pulls you out of line. This always happens to me, and they pat me down, very embarrassing. Then they open my bag and take out my tefillin. And how do you even begin to explain tefillin to the TSA? Where does this conversation even start? How do you explain 8-foot-long leather straps to security guards? They asked me, do you use this in the bedroom? And I said, only if I can't find 9 other men. And that is not the answer you want to give to the TSA. This never sounds good. You know, they're panicking. You mean older men, mature? I'm like, yeah, at least 13 years old. You've got nothing to worry about. I mean, 12 if it's a girl, but that's really... But how beautiful that in Israel these things are who we are. We don't need to explain who we are. And this was always with me. So this Israel bug, I never lost it. I actually moved to Israel after college and volunteered for the Israeli army, and I served in the combat unit of the IDF. And man, that is crazy. People ask me, you know, what's it like in the Israeli army? And I think the best way to describe the Israeli army is imagine a bunch of Israelis running an army. That's the Israeli army. It's a miracle the country exists. Imagine an army filled with people who hate authority. That is the Israeli army, because Israelis don't want to be told what to do, right? Imagine an army where if someone makes a mistake, they don't want to take responsibility because Israelis hate to admit that they're wrong. This happened to me the first day of basic training. I got my dog tag, which is really important. This is who you are, your identity, my dog tag. It had my personal number, which I had to memorize, 548-1287. It had my first name, Yoel, which is Hebrew for Joel. But my last name, instead of Chasnoff, it said Shitsnitz. This is a problem. This is my dog tag. I mean, this is my identity. So I found the guy making the dog tags, and bוא נגיד, אין לו דפ"ר 90. This guy did not graduate first in his high school class. He's got his shirt off and tattoos, and he's smoking, and I go up to him in my Solomon Schuster Hebrew. I'm like, hey, boker tov, ach sheli. Yesh li she'ela ala diskit, because that Solomon Schuster Hebrew, man, that screaming accent. And he was so Israeli. I said to him, excuse me, you misspelled my name. So what does he say? So don't die. Welcome to the IDF. But we have to do that. We have to do our part of well. If we're going to talk about Zionism, it's not just what Israel needs to do to recruit us. We need to do things to make ourselves more accessible to Israel and Israelis. Hebrew is a great place to start. We learn Hebrew school in summer camps and day school and Hebrew school, but it's not Israeli Hebrew. Israeli Hebrew is completely different. They have words in Israeli Hebrew that we will never learn in America. Does anyone know what this word means in Israeli Hebrew? Anyone? It means, shut up, you're wrong. That is, Ben Yehuda came up with that. Of course, the most popular word in Israeli Hebrew is this one, That's right. If you take a tour of Israel, I guarantee you will have the tour guide who wakes you up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Boker tov, my name is Dudu. I will be your guide tour leader for today. If you look to your right, you will see the old city of Jerusalem, which has many important things from the temple, which was destroyed in the year ממש לא יודע, long time ago, כן, ים בזמן. Now here's what we forget though. We all know history. It's the 21st century. We know history. We know that Jesus was Jewish. Jesus was a Jew. But here's what we forget. We forget that Jesus was Israeli. Where was he born? Beit Lechem, Bethlehem, in Israel. So chances are Jesus didn't get up on the mountain and say, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. No. Chances are Jesus got up there and said, Nu chevre, takshivu shniya. The Lord is my shepherd. Therefore I shall not... Abba, ta'azor li shniya. Hello. Guys, you've been great. Thank you so much. My name is Joel Chasnoff. I hope you have a wonderful time at today's amazing conference. I'll see you later on. Goodbye, everyone.